All right, everyone, welcome to Virtual Closeness, a Krishna Cove experience. Everyone, please say hi.
Hi. Hey there.
Haribo.
Freddie from El Paso. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. There you go. Show yourselves. Stop hiding behind the blank screen.
This is called virtual distancing.
Yeah.
Hide behind a black screen. Hey, there's Jesse. Hare Krishna. What a treat.
Good to see you guys. Thank you guys for coming out. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about adjusting to the new normal, something we have always done, but just now noticing. So go ahead, Guru Dave, take it away.
All right. Yeah, I came across this concept just recently. Was out at the park, and there was an old homeless gentleman out there, and I said, "Crazy world we're living in now." And he said, "It's just the new normal." And I felt like, oh, Krishna is giving me some idea to talk, some topic to talk about. From that, the whole series of thoughts came forth. So there's not a whole lot of us. I really don't know what we can do to get more people to participate, but be that since there's not a whole big group, let's have as much interface, conversation as we can. So if you have any ideas on this topic as we go, please share them with us. Good to see you, Jagdish. Hare Krishna. Jagdish, are you on twice?
Looks like it.
I see your smiling face and I see your name also. That's okay. It'll look like we have more people. Maybe all of you can get on twice, and I'll feel like I've got a bigger audience. Hey, there's Radha Sundari. Wow. Hare Krishna. Namo Namaha. Atul Govinda is there, but I can't see him. Wow, all of you look like you're not just sitting at home. You look like you've actually bathed and did your hair. Did you do your hair, Radha Sundari?
Yep.
Okay. I did mine too. Although I haven't shaved. I don't have to shave for the virtual. I'm shaving every 2 weeks now, so.
Something different, Guru Dave.
But I hate it. I don't like it. I'm just lazy. I don't like the feeling of it when it goes past a few days. So.
Definitely feel that.
Huh?
So I definitely feel that with the shaving thing.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Nasty,
I only do it to please my spiritual master. I do it to please Srila Prabhupada because I know he likes clean-shaven faces. You can have a little buzz once, a little growth once in a while, but Prabhupada liked clean heads and clean faces. So, all right, adjusting to the new normal. What are we talking about here? Normal means conforming to a type, standard, or regular pattern. It's like the normal place that you put your phone or your car keys. I'll bet most of you have a place, just like when I come in my front door, I have a little hook. And as soon as I come in the door, I put my car keys on that hook. That's the normal place for them, you see. I keep my phone on my desk next to my computer. That's the normal place for my phone. If I ever go to that hook by the door and my car keys aren't there, that's not normal. Something is wrong. Where are my keys? So now I've got this big house. Actually, I don't. I've got 720 square feet in my condominium. But it's a big place when I'm looking for car keys, you see. Now, fortunately, this has never happened to me. But if it did, can you imagine going to reach for your car keys and they're not where they're supposed to be? That's out of normal. Why? Why is that? Because I have this standard. It's a regular pattern where I keep my phone, I keep my car keys. We have a certain schedule or a routine that we have on a daily basis. We get up, there's certain things that we do. It's like, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you brush your teeth, you don't have to think about brushing your teeth. You can think about anything else, and you'll just go ahead and brush. If you start thinking about it, you'll wonder, did I brush the uppers? Did I brush the front? Did I brush the back? It gets out of your norm. When we get out of our normal, what we perceive to be our norm, it can cause varying degrees of distress. You see, things aren't normal. Oh my gosh, if things aren't normal, there's something wrong, right? So normal means conforming to a type, standard, or regular pattern, particular type of pattern or regular pattern. Our different conceptions of life, or what is and what is not normal, are grouped about the perceptions within our mind. Normal is only what we perceive it. If some of you who are married, you may wonder why you may leave your car keys in a certain place, and when your wife comes in, she puts hers in a different place. And sometimes if she's using your car keys, she may put hers in her normal place. You see? That's not normal to the way your mind perceives it. But what's the difference? The keys are just in a different place. So our different conceptions of life are what is normal and what is not normal are just grouped about perceptions in the mind. Conception, what are we talking about here? Let me give you the definition. Conception, the capacity, function, or process of forming or understanding ideas or abstractions or their symbols. B, a general idea, a concept. C, a complex product of abstract or reflective thinking. My conception, what do I conceive to be real? The sum of a person's ideas and beliefs concerning something. E, originating of something in the mind. Conception is known to be something that is within our mind. So I conceive and I perceive, and that is my norm as I see it. It's my normal world as I see it to be in my mind.
Prabhu, we are breaking up. Is there any way to improve audio quality?
Say again?
We break up a lot. Is it only me, or is everyone having a problem?
What problem? Are you having a problem with sound or something?
You're muted, Govinda.
Everything.
It's not the sound. You're breaking up, Prabhu. Your voice is breaking up a lot.
What is?
I'm not getting any breakup from Jivananda on my end. He's coming in crystal clear on my mind.
He's coming in clear, but you're pretty choppy, Jagadish.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It could be your internet connection.
It's my problem. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
It's your problem, and you're trying to blame it on me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just see the abuse I have to take.
Sorry, please go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
And if you guys get a chance, you can throw in a laugh once in a while. You know, it's just. So, all right. What am I talking about here? Perception. Perceptions of the mind. That's our normal. That is something, this concept of normal, that's always been with us. And these perceptions of what is normal and what is not normal have always been changing. We just happen to notice it. Why did we notice the adjustment of our normal, our world as we know it? The reason why is not because it's different, but because it happened quickly. It happened quickly. We didn't have like years to ramp into this, you see. Like when the economy is getting bad, little by little, we all kind of make our adjustments as we go, you see. When the bottom falls out of the stock market like it did in 1929, and we went into the Great Recession, that happened all at once. So this world of ours has changed very quickly. The truth is, it's always been changing. And your perception of it has always been changing. So where do I get this? I get this from Krishna. Krishna is saying this. So Krishna says, and you might want to put this on the screen, Jivananda, if you want to. I'm going to do Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verses 8 and 9. 15, 8, and 9. So let's hear Krishna's opinion on this. Krishna says, Bhagavad Gita 15, 8, Sariram yarab avapnoti yatchap yutkham pramatishvaraha Ritvaitani samyati vayurgandhani shayata ivasayat. Translation: the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aroma. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits to take another. So this concept, these conceptions of life, Krishna says here, they're carried with the subtle body as air carries aroma. So it's not a very it's not on the gross level. This is a product of how you perceive what's going on. Living entity carries the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So hold on, please. I don't know why people are sending me messages. I guess these are people who don't know we're having a class. Hang on.
Hey, Guru David, most of that is coming from our Krishna Cove crew. So if you just want to stop the notifications at the top right, there's a little eye there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to tell this person that who's not on and never has been on, but likes to send all kinds of messages. So, and that's okay. I encourage that. But gee whiz, we're having a class here. So, hey, is that Stephanie? Hey, good to see you. I see Kim is on. I thought I smelled jasmine. All right, so again, for those of you who are just getting in after I read the verse, let me read it again. The living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So these conceptions of life we carry from one body to another. And Prabhupada is using the analogy of air, as air carries an aroma. So this is subtle. This is very subtle. These conceptions of the mind. mind, intelligence, and false ego go with the soul when we go from one body to another. So when you leave one body, your mind, your intelligence, and your false ego will go with it. It's the subtle body, and the mind is part of that subtle body. Never mind. So, all right, back to Krishna. The subtle body, or the mind, intelligence, false ego, go with the soul as we change bodies, body to body. So these perceptions of what is normal accompany the body as well. They're just perceptions in the mind. Excuse me, they accompany the soul. So it's very easy to understand. My mind is telling me that it's normal for me to be able to go out in public without wearing a mask and without touching everything. It's normal, quote unquote, normal for me not to have to watch out touching my face or to stay away from other people. So our mind, that's just the perception that our mind is telling us. Now it's becoming normal. Like when I first started going to the store, which I do very rarely, but once in a while I have to get out. Suddenly one day I noticed a couple of people and they were wearing masks. And at first I thought, wow, that's unusual. It's come to that. We're having to wear masks. This was a couple of weeks ago. And then I went out a few days ago and practically everybody was wearing a mask. Very unusual to see somebody that's not wearing some sort of covering over their face. So this has become our new normal, and we're adjusting to it. Now, if I see some guy at Trader Joe's, I'll go to Trader Joe's once in a while to get some yogurt or whatever. And if I see somebody that's not wearing a mask, that's not normal. As a matter of fact, I think, wait a minute, look at this guy. I'm staying away from him. So our normal has changed. Prabhupada says in the purport here, and if you have any questions, please stop at any time. Prabhupada says here the living entity is described as Ishvara. What does Ishvara mean? Does anyone know?
Controller.
Controller. The living entity is described as the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to a higher grade. And if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends on him. At the time of death, the consciousness that he has created will carry him on to the next type of body. This consciousness, this conception of what is real, what is pious, what is God, who am I, what are my desires. This consciousness that you've created will carry you to the next body. What does Prabhupada mean by that? It means by your consciousness that you have right now, that you're living by, you're actually building your next body. You're building your next life right now. It's like you may have, sometimes people may have a garage, and in the garage they have a pet project. Maybe they're building a custom car. And so every so often they go out and they'll add some new parts or paint the car, whatever. And so they're building this car. Someday they're going to get in that car and they're going to drive it around. And they're going to be very proud of this car that I built. This is my project. So unbeknownst to us, we're doing that right now. We're building a body and we're building a life through our development of our consciousness. And according to our consciousness, we will act. As we act, there will be reaction. So we're building up karma. And this karma is building our next life for us. So, does that make any sense? So, Prabhupada goes on, if he has made his consciousness like that of a cat or a dog, he is sure to change to a cat or dog's body. And if he has fixed his consciousness on godly qualities, he will change into the form of a demigod. And if he is Krishna conscious, if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. It's pretty simple when you boil it down. If you've made your consciousness like that of a cat or dog, you're sure to change to a cat or dog's body. Some people may say, I never meditate on being a cat or a dog. I don't think, it's not like I have this dream that I want to be a cat or a dog. It's not my desire. But your consciousness is like that. Could be. None of you are like that, but it could be. Your consciousness is like that. What does that mean? I'm thinking about the same things that the cats and dogs think about. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You see? In other words, that's the animal thought process. That's the animal consciousness. What do I eat? Where do I sleep? Where is my mate? I need some sex life. And now that I have these things, who is going to try to take it from me? I'll have to defend. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And we've talked about before, there are certain desires that are just not the best desires to pursue if you have a human body. For instance, the human body is made for thinking. What kind of thinking? Not just, where is my mate? Where is something to eat? How much nicer can I arrange my sleeping arrangement? The human body, the brain of the human, equips us with something that can actually ponder, is there life after death? The dogs don't have a brain. The cats don't have a brain like this. They don't spend any time wondering, gee whiz. The cat doesn't think, do I really have 9 lives? Will I have another life and another life? You see, the dog doesn't get concerned with this kind of thing. The dog is just simply, cat is just simply looking for eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If we, the human being, if we are chiefly, for instance, if our chief desire is sex life, then we'll be given a body that will give us ample opportunity to pursue that fully, like that of a dog. The sex life for a dog is very simple, very complicated for a human being. Sex life for a pigeon is very simple. Prabhupada said a pigeon can have sex once every 10, 15 minutes, all day, every day. You don't even have, it's not the same pigeon, and you don't have to take care of the eggs when the eggs are laid. You don't have to take care and teach the new babies when the eggs are cracked and the new baby birds come out. You don't have to teach them how to fly. You just fly off and go have sex with another pigeon. So sex life is not a proper meditation on how to improve my sex life is not part of the human process. It's not in keeping with the consciousness of a human being. You see, mating must be there. Eating must be there. Sleeping must be there. Defending must be there in the human form of life. However, we purify all of these activities. We purify eating by taking Krishna Prasadam. Eating, we purify sleeping by resting our body so that we can serve. And then not oversleeping, and certainly not undersleeping. Mating is done. Mating for human beings it should be civilized. You see, mating should be done for procreation. The animals do it because they have the urge. So, does everyone understand? Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to pause right now. Questions, comments? Okay. Yes, this is very important. Prabhupada says, and if he is in Krishna consciousness, he will be transferred to Krishna Loka in the spiritual world and will associate with Krishna. So therefore, Prabhupada has this international society, a worldwide society, based on helping people to develop consciousness of Krishna, Krishna consciousness. So why does he do that? Why does he want us to have Krishna consciousness? Does he get like some special reward when he goes back to Godhead? You know, is he getting a commission or something? No, out of compassion, Krishna has sent forth his devotees, and the devotees, out of compassion, want to help you adjust your consciousness to such a level that next birth you will associate with Krishna in Krishna Loka. In other words, go back home, back to Godhead, back to where you've come from. It's pretty simple. When you think about it, that sums up pretty much what are we trying to do? We're looking out for the well-being and the future happiness, the future destiny of everyone. We want to see everyone go back home, back to Krishna. See? In the beginning, we want to do that just to please Guru. You see? After we do that, we actually start to develop. Once we please the Guru by trying to make the world Krishna conscious, we'll actually develop some compassion for the fallen conditioned soul. So then we're doing it because we want to, and also because it satisfies the desires of our spiritual master. And the disciplic succession, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Krishna, Krishna wants you to help bring people back home in whatever capacity you can. You see, it's not that everyone, it's not like a cookie cutter. Everyone's expected to perform on the same level. But if all you can do is one little bit of helping people to develop their Krishna consciousness, that's glorious. Krishna is very happy. I forget the little girl's name, Saraswati, I think. Anyway, there was a little girl one time who was walking through a crowd where Prabhupada was, a bunch of assembled devotees and guests. And this little girl, she was maybe 3 years old, I think. I can't remember. And she was walking around telling everyone, she'd look up at them and say, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And then she would go on to another person. Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. And she would go on like that. And Prabhupada noticed this and he said, just see, she's telling everyone she meets everything she knows about Krishna. So someone may say, well, that's not very much. Her contribution isn't very much. But she's doing what she can, you see, according to her capacity at that particular time, place, and circumstance. So whatever our capacity is at any given time, let's try to help the world be more conscious of Krishna, you see. Otherwise, they're on their own. They're simply chasing their own desires, you see. We could go on and on about that. So many people have so many wild desires. Some people want to climb Mount Everest. Some people want to, I see where I live in the Catalina foothills, on the other side of the road and some places around me, there's some very expensive places. There's some wealthy people that live up here. And I noticed as I've lived here 5 years now, I drive around, especially on the weekend, I noticed that some of the more wealthy folks in their garage, they have custom cars. I don't know if they've built them or if they've just bought them. But they have this desire to have, like this one guy has looks like sometime, maybe a 67 or 66 Corvette. And it's got a custom paint job and it looks really incredible. So his desire is to get out on the weekend. And because he only has time, I guess he works probably hard to make his money, to get out and drive around in his custom car. So that's his desire. He has this desire. The other guy might want to climb the mountain. Some people might want to become expert in this or expert in that, whatever. So these desires are very unfortunate when the devotee sees this. Why is it unfortunate? Because he could channel his desire towards actually associating with Krishna. He could actually build his next lifetime into one that's associating directly, a loving relationship with Krishna. Instead, he works real hard, and on the weekends he drives around in a custom car. You see? From the mundane level, people might say, what's wrong with that? From the mundane level, nothing. On the spiritual level, what value is achieving your goal, your dream, or your desire on the material platform if it's not going to give you a really great situation in your next lifetime, like not having to come back to this material world? Like you could actually assemble a life for yourself on the other side of death, or you could be with Krishna. You could be restored to your natural position. So, does that make any sense?
Totally.
All right. Prabhupada says, it is a false claim that after the annihilation of this body, everything is finished. Some people like to say that. Many people like to say that. I forget the most recent statistics that I've heard, but there is an interestingly high percentage of people who believe that when you die, it's just all over. The lights go out, you no longer exist. There is no life after death. There's nothing. This life is the all in all. A lot of people believe that. Prabhupada said this is a false claim. The individual soul is transmigrating from one body to another, and his present body and present activities are the background of this next body. Just like we were saying, your present activities are the background for your next body. So if we can stay engaged in Krishna's service, that's the background of our next body. Our next body will be serving Krishna. If we're doing Krishna now, service to Krishna now, then we'll be doing service to Krishna in the afterlife. So this is what we call Krishna consciousness. We're conscious of Krishna now. We're returning back to our original state as eternal loving servitor, associate of Krishna. So it's like, I've often said that ISKCON is kind of like training wheels for going back to Godhead or liberation. What do I mean by that? Training wheels help you along the way until you no longer need them, okay? Like on a bicycle. So we're already practicing now in this International Society for Krishna Consciousness life as it will be like in the liberated stage by performing loving devotional service to Krishna. So if we're doing that now, and we're actually building we're setting the background from our activities and our desires and our consciousness for our next body, our next bodily situation. So this is a training. you see. But it's actually more than training, it's the graduate position as well. If we continue to perform loving devotional service, then we will achieve liberation now. We don't have to wait until death. In other words, Godhead is here and now. We're actually practicing it here and now. So when you're practicing this, actually I read a conversation between Jayapataka Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada earlier. I think I put it on, you might have seen that, where Prabhupada and Jayapataka Maharaj were talking about the fact that Godhead is here. It's here and now if you're performing loving devotional service. Emphasis on loving devotional. Now, in the beginning, our service is neither devotional nor loving, but we do it, you see, as we continue to practice service in the association of devotees who are practicing loving devotional service. We learn how to practice loving devotional service. It becomes better and better and better, you see. We become more and more perfect at our attempts to perform loving devotional service. And as you get further and further along in your ability to perform true, loving devotional service, you're becoming more and more liberated. Does that make any sense? Anybody have any questions before I go on? I see Ganga Mantri joined us. Hare Krishna, Ganga Mantri Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
One quick question.
Yeah.
So how do you know, like, I think you might have talked about this in another class a little bit. How do you know when you're there? I mean, should you never feel that way because you're trying to be humble?
Yeah, you're never going to feel that way. It's not if you're that you're trying to feel humble. You just become humble. You don't have to try to feel humble. But I can see that's a good way to put it. No, we become humble. We become humble by submitting to Guru and Krishna, submitting to authority. We all have authority, spiritual authority. We have Diksha and Shiksha Gurus, and we serve them, and we learn from them. For us to be a good student, we have to be humble, meaning that we have to submit to the teacher. And that's true whether you're studying to be an accountant, a computer scientist, or a doctor or a lawyer. If you go into class with an attitude like, there's nothing that you can teach me, I know as much as you do, well, you're probably not going to do very well. But the student who goes in recognizing that my teacher has some expertise and I can get some gift of knowledge from them, that is humility. So once we get a taste of humility, we should maintain it and let it grow. What do I mean by that? If you ever find yourself thinking, you're giving yourself the old pat on the back, you ever find yourself thinking that, I'm doing this, I'm getting really good at this, then you need to sit yourself down and have a talk with yourself. It's not up to us. It's just like the student, if you're in class learning whatever, it's like Bhakta Freddy teaches Tai Chi. And so his students, it's not up to the student to decide, I'm doing really good. It's up to the teacher. Do you call it sensei? What is the name?
Yes, sir. And actually, the Chinese call it sifu.
Sifu.
Sifu. Yes, sir.
Sifu. Yeah. So the teacher decides what your grade is. You see? Now, if you think, well, I think I'm as good as you, well, now you've lost your humility, and your ability to win or to learn has been decreased tremendously. As long as you're surrendered, first of all, if you have a good teacher, you're sure you have a good teacher, then you submit. Please teach me. If you aren't convinced that you have a good teacher, then find one. Find a good teacher. You see what I mean? But you should never feel yourself thinking, yes, I'm really doing good. You should always think, I know I can do better. I know I can. And we simply pray. I pray to Srila Prabhupada, please help me to become better in my service. I pray to Lord Chaitanya, please empower me to serve my Guru. What potency do I have on my own? I don't have any potency on my own. In the material world, we actually get into thinking that I have so much potency all on my own. You see, I'm this and I'm that. But if God is the source of everything, then whatever potency I may have is coming from God. So I want potency to serve my Guru. I beg Lord Chaitanya, please empower me to do this service very nicely. I think I see Carmen's name there. Are you there, Carmen?
Hi, Prabhu. Yes, I am.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Krishna.
Good to hear from you. Oh, this is nice. Yeah, it's really nice. I don't get to embrace any of you, but I get to see your faces. At least once in a while, I get to see a face here. The rest of the time, they're all blacked out.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah.
I got this idea from somebody else that I was listening to. He was speaking, and I just wanted to see what your take on it was. But he kind of was going after the perspective that that as a person from ISKCON, we're trying to, in a sense, take over the world, or like trying to control the world in a way, so that way we can make more policies that are God conscious. But I'm not sure if that has any founding in Prabhupada's mission. Does ISKCON have an investment to try to take over the world, maybe like in these next 10,000 years, and to help people lead people back to ISKCON, or is that not really? I mean,
yes, this is a side project.
Can you tell me more about that, if that's part of Srila Prabhupada's vision?
Yes, behind closed doors.
To Elijah.
Oh, yeah, hush, hush, yeah. Thank you, Elijah.
I forgot the AU was Elijah. Ora.
Hare Krishna.
Sounds like a cheer. Ora! Isn't that what the soldiers say to each other? Hoo-ha. Hoo-ha. Ora.
Oh, Ora. Gold
Ora.
Sonora.
Yes. Sayonara? Yeah. Yeah, we're actually trying to take over the world in a different, not from a material perspective. We do not want to be the rulers of the world. We're not looking to take over and own everything, like this sounds like something that a political party might be wanting to do. One party is thinking we've got to do something about this president because, gee whiz, he's appointing Supreme Court judges. So we're going to lose control. So we need to get more Supreme Court judges on our side that agree with us. Not that we're looking out for what's best for the people or for the Constitution or whatever, but both sides want to get control. This is a poison that is it's lurking in the minds of the materially afflicted. Sometimes it can even happen to devotees when this desire for control becomes so prominent. Why do you want to control? I would much rather influence. Control doesn't have anything to do with loving association, loving relationship. Influence. How do we influence? You be a devotee. You be as good a devotee as you possibly can. You will influence other people into becoming as good a devotee as they can possibly be. And so on like that. They will influence and others will influence. So we want to influence the world into becoming Krishna conscious. We want to influence the world into becoming devotees of Krishna. We want to influence the world into desiring to go back home, back to Godhead. You see? So we want to have strong influence. We do this by making devotees, one person at a time. Well, if we can do 10 at a time, that's good too. But I'm happy with one at a time for now. So one at a time, let's make it. Once we get a certain critical mass of pure devotees on this planet, it will start a big, like a domino effect. See? So this is what we're trying to do. Do we want to take office? No. And yes, we don't want to take over and kick them out. We want to let them stay where they are. Let the president stay, let Congress stay, let the Supreme Court stay, let them keep their jobs. Let's just let them be pure devotees. See? So if they become pure devotees, some people may say, well, fat chance of that. But I don't know. In the last 47 years, I've seen thousands of people who were low-class people, meat eaters and whatever, become devotees of Krishna. So yes, it is possible. Yes, this can happen. And yes, it will happen. I mean, we already have a devotee in Congress right now. You know, Tulsi is in Congress. She may end up being president someday. This is not out of reach for us. We want to influence. Just think how many people she's influencing. She is in a position of influence. So get yourself into being in a position of influence. What do I mean by that? Behave in such a way, act like a devotee of Krishna. Behave like a devotee of Krishna. You see? If you do that, people will be influenced by your lifestyle. They'll be influenced by the way you deal with them. You see, they'll be attracted. They'll actually want to emulate you. They'll want to be like you. You see, I've noticed that all my life. I've met many wonderful devotees. And I think, well, at least subtly, but sometimes on the gross level too, I find myself thinking, I want to be more like that person. You know, I want to follow in your footsteps. I want to be more like you. And this actually starts to happen. As we associate with the senior devotees, we start to become more and more like them because our consciousness is becoming purified through their association. Does that make any sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It
Yeah.
does make a lot of sense. Thank you.
So it's not like we all want to rise up, overthrow the government. No, you know, that's foolish. We're not that kind of people. But we do have the ability and the desire to influence the world into becoming a better place for everybody.
And sir, in the past, like when they, like in the times of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they talk about kings and their systems of government, would you call it like a Brahmanical system or a Vedic system, or how would you describe that system?
In previous days, like in the times of the Vedas, like Maharaj Yudhisthira, these were saintly kings, Rajrishi, saintly rulers. So meaning that they were saintly, they were devotees. So if the ruler is a devotee, then think of the influence that that ruler can have on society. We would like to see that. We would really like to see that happen someday, where we have saintly rulers. saintly president, a saintly Supreme Court. What if, just imagine, what if the Supreme Court, what are there, 9? There's 9 members of the same Supreme Court, I believe. What if every one of them was a pure devotee of Krishna? What if they were just good devotees? What if they were just nice devotees? Can you think of how that would change everything? So no matter what comes in front of the Supreme Court, it's going to be decided on by devotees who are going to use what is going to be the things that influence their decision-making process. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. If we have the Supreme Court making their decisions based on Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, man, that's a home run for the world, you see. If we could do that, then America would influence the rest of the world as it has for the last 200 years. So,
what is what you were saying? Those 3 things are, if they rule that way, what are those things?
Guru, in other words, I need to make a decision. I'm a Supreme Court justice, and I have heard the arguments from both sides. All right. I've heard from the plaintiff and I've heard from the defendant, and now it's time for me to make a decision. So I wonder, what would my guru say? What would the sadhus, the assembled devotees, what would they say? And what does Shastra, what does the scripture say? You see? Not like whatever whim is in my mind, or gee whiz, what's hip right now? You know, what will please everyone, you know, what will gratify people's senses? No, what would my guru think? That should be the knee-jerk reaction of every devotee. You know? Someone says, what is your opinion on this? You immediately think, oh, the guru said this, the sadhus, the saintly persons that I know, their opinion is this, and the Shastra that I read, it says this. So that is my opinion. That's my opinion. If I have an opinion different from that, I'm just speculating on a material basis like everybody else. You see? Does that make any sense?
Yes.
And if you can always make your decisions according to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, your decisions will always be better, more benefiting for you and the people around you and the world in general.
And do you feel like someone should do that even if they're not political people? Like, say, like someone like us in a daily life?
Positively. Yeah, all of our decisions should be made. That should be our filter. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra.
Okay.
That should be our filter on when information is coming in one ear or both ears. Before it's processed in our mind and comes out our mouth, it should go through the filter of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. It's like water. You see, I've got this water filter that I put on my under my sink. 5 years ago when I moved in, I put this reverse osmosis filter on. One of the smartest things that I've ever done for my house. And so now all the water that comes out of the spigot, when I turn it on, it's automatically filtered. You see? Now the water that's coming in is just tap water, and it has contamination, some contamination here and there. How much, I don't know. All I know is it doesn't taste good, and it does have some contamination in it. But because I have this filter, everything that comes out of that spigot is pure, you see? So we need to make our consciousness like that, this consciousness of the filter of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Then everything will come in, it's always contaminated. Prabhupada said everything in Kali Yuga is contaminated. The devotees would say, oh, Prabhupada, the milk is contaminated, this is contaminated, the air is contaminated. Prabhupada said everything in Kali Yuga is contaminated. You see? So as this world is coming into our psyche, as it's approaching our mind, we should have that filter of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. And therefore, by the time it hits our mind for processing, it starts coming out of our mouth, it's pure, purified. See? To the degree that we don't filter it through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, the contamination from the outside world filters through, and it'll come out of our mouth. I often hear people that are striving to be devotees saying things that are just pretty much political or hip, or they have nothing to do with Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, you see. And so I can see you've let a little bit of contamination get in, you see. You didn't filter that. That was coming in, and you let it bypass the filter. That's like me going to the faucet every so often and thinking, hey, you know what? I think right now I'm going to take some tap water. I've got filtered water here, but I think I'm going to do tap water. Foolish. See? So, but why do we do that? Because we're influenced, and gee whiz, we've been doing it for billions of lifetimes. See? And sometimes I don't want to run it through that filter. You know? I know what the Guru and the Sadhus and the Shastra is going to say, and I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way because, gee whiz, all these other people are doing it. You know, so sometimes we think like that. You know? So, but if we do run it through the filter, then it will always be purified. Our thoughts. If our thoughts are purified, then our words and actions will also be purified. You see? After some time, it becomes a way of life. It becomes normal. It becomes your norm to filter it through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. See? There may be, if you do like that all the time, there will be people around you who will probably criticize you because maybe you're not up with the times, or you're not as hip as everybody should be, or they want you to be, or whatever. They may criticize you. Why? Because you're thinking on a transcendental level and they're thinking on a mundane level. I'm not criticizing them. That's just their normal. Their normal is to think mundane. You see, the devotee's normal becomes filtering through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. That's my normal. And I know after some time you'll start to think that if I don't filter what's coming into my mind through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, there could be some difficulty. And after some time further, you'll know that if I don't filter this outside world through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, there will be difficulty that will happen to me from my decisions, and I will affect in a very negative way those people around me from the thoughts, actions, and words that I'm having, which are influenced by the material nature. Does that make any sense?
Yes. So, because that's like the what, like we should do filter this way. But the how will be like chanting on your beads and asking advice to the Guru and reading the scriptures. That's pretty much.
Yeah.
Because I don't freaking
hearing,
so
hearing, chanting, and remembering. So how do we get this filter in our mind? You've got to hear. You've got to hear a lot. You got to hear a lot on a regular basis. You see, that's why we're doing these online classes, and we're trying to get people to tune in, because we all need to hear. We need to hear this. We're hearing Krishna's words. We're hearing Prabhupada's words. You see, this is building a filter in your mind. if every day you hear Shastra, if every day you hear Guru, if every day you're hearing from the sadhus, then you're building a filter in your mind, you see. It takes hearing, chanting, and remembering, you see. And it takes a while. You can't expect this to happen like overnight. However, it doesn't fully just depend on you, because Krishna will help you. If you're sincere, Krishna will certainly help you. You see? So it's not just a mechanical thing, that if you hear for so many hours, you get so advanced. No, it's as your heart develops, as you want to remember Krishna, and Krishna will, he says, remembrance and forgetfulness comes from me. I'm the source. He will let you remember. Krishna also says that if you're sincerely serving him with love and devotion, that he will enliven you from within. Well, that doesn't mean that I quit reading Srimad Bhagavatam and quit reading Bhagavad Gita and quit hearing classes. I just think, well, let Krishna do it from within. That's foolish. If I'm sincerely trying to hear, chant, remember, Krishna will help me. He will you can take that to the bank. That is a fact. You see? Because the science of God is not something that you can actually learn in one lifetime. But Krishna can enliven you. Guru can enliven you through the disciplic succession. You see, this can be given. This can be delivered to you to the degree that you're sincere and desirous of it. Does that make any sense? Good question.
Yes, I just took some notes, so I can remember, because I'll forget.
We got to make sure to have you on here more often. Yes, good questions. All right. Prabhupada says this process of migrating from one body to another and struggling while in the body is called karshati, or struggle for existence. There will always be a struggle for existence so long as we're in this material world. That is the nature of this place. Even Bill Gates, the rich guy, very secure future, he's very secure. He's got bodyguards and he's got money, and I'm sure he's got his money invested properly, but he still has to struggle for existence. Now, his struggle may not be as hard as ours, but it's still there. Going on into verse 9, Krishna says, Strotram chaksuhu sparsanam cha rasanam grinam eva cha arishtaya manaschayam vishayan upashevate. Translation, Krishna is saying the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. What has happened here? Your perception of normal has just changed. You were in one body, and now you find yourself in another body due to your activities and desires and etc. from your previous body. You built this body. Now you have been transformed into this new body that you've designed on your own. And here you are. You have a particular type of ear, tongue, nose, sense of touch. So now your norm is different. You're in a new normal, aren't you? So, and all of this is grouped about the mind. Now I'm in the mind, I have the mind, the mindset that I'm a dog. And so now I'm attracted to this kind of food. I'm attracted to this type of another dog for my sex life. I'm attracted to a pile of straw, maybe for my comfortable bed. And I defend instead of with my guns and knives, I just defend with my teeth and my nails, you see. So all of a sudden now my perception of my body has changed. So my normal is different. Any questions about that before I go on? All right, so let me read that verse again. I love this verse. There's so much that Krishna is saying here. The living entity thus taking another gross body. You've taken a gross body, means you can perceive it through the senses. And you've obtained a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose. In other words, things that used to be pleasing to me, like barking of dogs, I didn't like that. I would holler out my window, "Can you quiet your dog, please?" Now I find myself in a dog's body. Barking of dogs means these could be my friends. It sounds like music. The eye, the tongue, now I like dog food. I like things that typically dogs, not domesticated dogs, but dogs that live outside in the outside world, they're typically attracted to things that don't smell very well. I don't know if you've noticed that. But, you know, in India, you see a lot of dogs that just kind of live out. And I've seen dogs in the United States in decades past that just kind of lived outside. They weren't pampered and tried to, they didn't have anyone trying to humanize them. And they were very attracted to things that didn't smell so good. Because they have a dog's tongue. They have a dog's nose. And a different sense of touch. All of these are grouped about the mind. Now I have the mindset of a dog or a cat or whatever. What we're trying to do is to give ourselves the mindset of an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. I want to have that type of perception of me, my existence. You see? Therefore, I'm attracted to seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, and touching things that an eternal living entity, an eternal associate with Krishna, would be attracted to. You see? Prabhupada goes in the purport, Prabhupada says, in other words, if the living entity adulterates his consciousness with qualities of cats and dogs, in his next life, he gets the cat or dog body and enjoys in that way. These senses are here for us to perceive enjoyment. So I like Prabhupada's choice of words here. If the living entity adulterates his consciousness, you're adulterating your consciousness. What does he mean by this? Now, he'll explain as we go on in this purport. Consciousness is originally pure, like water. Water is pure. Okay, it's H2O. I can never remember if it's 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen, or 1 hydrogen and 2 oxygen. It doesn't matter. It's H2O. But it is pure. However, if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. So what happens? It's still water, but it has some color that's in the water. If you leave it sit for a while, then this color will settle. Typically the color, it may take a long time, it will settle. The particles in the water that make the water colored, or you can filter them out. You can run it through a filter and the colored particles will be removed and pure H2O comes out the other end. So, Prabhupada says consciousness is originally pure. That means you are consciousness. And you are originally pure, like water. But if we mix water with a certain color, it changes. Similarly, consciousness is pure, for the spirit soul is pure. You are pure. Why? you're part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is pure, therefore you are pure. However, like the water is kind of adulterated by this coloring that you may put in it from dye, or you might put some vinegar in water. It gives it a bad taste. But if you run it through the proper filter, it'll let the water come out and keep the vinegar and purify the taste. So the spirit soul is pure. You are pure. However, your consciousness gets a little contaminated. What is that contamination? You start to believe that you're part of this material world. So, I am my body. That begins with I am my body. I am my body, you are your body, and we're all part of this America or England or Earth, whatever you, this universe, whatever. It's all Maya. Prabhupada says, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material qualities. You are pure, but when you start associating with the material qualities, it adulterates your consciousness. You get confused. You see, I get so much input of the material qualities that my remembrance of my spiritual pureness, my true identity, gets pushed down. There's so much input from the material consciousness, the material qualities of this material world, that I lose track of myself. You see, all we're doing is trying to. It's like cleaning away. If your car was covered with mud, and you're cleaning away layers of this mud that's on your car. You're at the car wash and you're cleaning away this layer and that layer, and finally you'll get down enough to where there's the pure car there. You've actually cleansed the covering off. So it's like that we have layers of material consciousness that are layered over, and so many of them, that it's layered over our original consciousness, that we've forgotten who we really are, you see. We don't even know what's really going on. We start to believe that the layers of consciousness are really our consciousness. The layers of material consciousness, we start to accept them as real. We take our birth in America. Well, when you're like 3 months old, you're not rah, rah, rah for America. You don't have a favorite football team yet. You don't have a favorite this or a favorite that. You don't know if you prefer Chevy over Ford. You don't know these things. But as you grow and you're influenced by the outside world, you start to get these material layers of consciousness. Gee whiz, I think I'm a Chevy man, or I'm a Ford man. I like the White Sox. I like the Yankees. I'm this or I'm that. Or I'm a Yale man, or I'm a whatever. We start to identify as we get this input from the outside world. We start to identify with this outside world. Does this make any sense? You see? But I started out, I didn't know. When I was born, I didn't know. I didn't know if I preferred chocolate or vanilla. You see? These things come on us later on. They're fed to us. And the problem is, as we're growing up in this material world, we don't have this filter of guru, sadhu, shastra, unless we're born into a devotee family. And perhaps we go to the Gurukul. We're trained in a school. We can see that these children that grew up in the movement, they're not so enamored by the material world. They have a better understanding of it. They may have some attraction, but still not as much as if they were not born into this movement. So you can see, just as you started out as a child and all of these things were fed to you all of your life, and now here we are, middle-aged, or some of us are actually old age. Actually, no, it's just me, isn't it? But as life goes on, I wish Krishna Nam was here. When Krishna Nam's here, I can share being old with him. So as we go on, we become more and more contaminated. It's like more and more contaminated water going into our body without ever filtering it. You see? So at some point, if you can start this young in your life, getting this filter of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, then you're going to end up a much more purified consciousness as you go through life. A big advantage to the living entity to be able to proceed through life on purified consciousness. So let me go on. Prabhupada says, but consciousness is changed according to the association of the material quality. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. If it's not Krishna consciousness, it's not real consciousness. It is illusion. It's illusory consciousness. I'm thinking something, I'm thinking I am something that I'm not. I'm thinking that reality is something that it's not. Real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in pure life. What is Prabhupada? That's a strong statement. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in pure life. This Krishna consciousness is pure. Now, you may say, but gee whiz, I've been practicing Krishna consciousness. I don't think I'm pure yet. Well, that's good, because if you thought you were pure, you would be in Maya. So, but it's like we always say, ISKCON is like a hospital. A hospital is where people go to get well. And some people have been in the hospital a long time and they've become very well. They're going to be discharged soon. Other people just checked in. They're still sick, but they're really trying. They're taking their medicine and they're following doctors' instructions, and they're making progress. And other people have been there in between, or whatever, different levels of healing spiritually. So this Krishna consciousness, this bhakti yoga, is a healing process for the consciousness of the soul. See? And Prabhupada, this is a bold statement. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life he gets a corresponding body. So if your consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, any type of material mentality, we want to avoid material mentality. How do we do that? We put our thoughts through our filter. You see, we've got to get that filter in place to filter out the contamination of material consciousness. Otherwise, even though we might be middle-aged or old age, we still continue to be conditioned by the material world. Poisoned. Our consciousness continues to be poisoned, you see, by the material energy. Prabhupada says he does not necessarily get a human body again. He can get the body of a cat, dog, hog, demigod, or one of many other forms, for there are 8,400,000 species. So, again, let me read those two verses. and then we can have some discussion if you like. Krishna says the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. The living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. Thus, he enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So, what are your comments or questions, realizations, doubts, fears, trepidations?
I have something to say.
Please.
Okay. This reminds me of how we don't really notice, unless we're like aware of like the present moment. We can't tell, well, I suppose we can't really tell our past or future bodies in the sense of time that people consider reincarnation, like I have a past life or a future life, and this whole karmic becoming upon our death, if we do come back into this samsara, then it's not a we don't recognize our new form because it was a gradual change of events, change of form. It reminds me of this psychological thing I learned in high school called the sensory threshold, where, for instance, if someone told you to turn the music down, so you turn it down at first and then you progressively bring it up. As long as it stays within like 5% of the volume it was over a 3-minute period, then it can get like extremely loud and they won't notice until they bring their conscious awareness to the top of it again. The same way like a frog in like a pot of soup wouldn't realize it's boiling.
Until it's too late.
Exactly.
The poor frog starts to wonder, wow, what is that somebody's cooking? It smells good.
Yeah.
Yikes, it's me. So yeah.
We have to bring it to the top of our awareness that we're in this new state, and we never recognize it as a new state because it's always just, this is happening to me in that state of consciousness.
Exactly, and we're accepting these things as it's increasing little by little, like you're increasing the volume little by little, or the temperature of the water for the frog little by little. This is happening to us. You see, as our consciousness is being is entering our mind from birth. It's happening little by little, and it's just like people they get to the point to where they can adjust to, like they can adjust to the increase of sound. They adjust to suffering, and they start thinking that suffering is the norm. You see? As a matter of fact, many people that we talk to, the type of life that we're describing, they think is actually non-existent and not appealing. I mean, who wants a life where everybody is nice to each other and everybody's loving with each other? Wouldn't that be boring? At least subconsciously they think like that. You know, well, if it's all going to be like that, then who am I going to cheat? You know, who am I going to take advantage of? Because I'm looking out for my gratification, just my gratification. And in a world like that, you know, if I'm in the world of cheaters and the cheated, then I know that from one time or another I'll be cheated. I also know that from one time or another I'll be the cheater. And so I've accepted that as reality, you see. And if sometimes when we're talking to people, I don't know if you've experienced that in your preaching, but I've actually had that where people say, well, this doesn't sound like a very attractive world that you're talking about, you see, because their consciousness is based on enjoying through the gross material senses, the gross material types of enjoyment. See? Does that make any sense, Ora?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I don't know why people are so much interested. Through the years, I've gotten many people, and I know probably many of, if not all of you, have experienced people who are interested in past life. What is it? Should they call it past life
Regression.
Yeah.
Regression.
Yeah. So many people are very interested in it, and it boggles my mind. Why wouldn't we be so or far much more interested in what the next life is going to be like? What is with the curiosity on my previous life? And yet some people are just infatuated. They think it's just amazing to try to find out what was I a prince or a princess? Was I this or that? What would that matter? You can't have it back. It is gone. You see? What about the next life? And I find that when I start saying like that to people that are into the previous life, I say, well, what about the next life? It's just like all of a sudden they lose their belief in this life after life situation. I believe I had a previous life because someone was telling me that in my previous life I was a king. I was a very handsome, noble king. So I believe in that. But now you're talking about the future life, and I just can't put any reality into that. They don't seem to have any interest in it. So if you're practicing bhakti yoga, if you're practicing Krishna consciousness, we can tell you what your next life is going to be like within certain, limits. I can't tell you what your name is going to be, or, there's so many things I can't tell you, but I can tell you pretty much what it's going to be like if you can continue this Krishna consciousness. See? And Prabhupada says that you will attain Krishna Loka. If you perfect this, you don't even have to fully perfect it. You see? You just get sincere. Krishna says, I will deliver you. I personally will deliver you. So, yeah, if you practice this Krishna consciousness with sincerity, I can predict you're going to be in Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna. What you guys are going to be doing every day, I don't know. You have a particular unique relationship with him. I think you should be curious about that and pursue knowledge of that. So, but as far as where have I come from, my previous life, I say waste of time, waste of brain cells. Let's think about the future. Like I always say to people that start talking about past life regression, this is like driving down the highway, looking in your rearview mirror. You should be looking out of the front of the car, steering where you're going, not looking at where you've been. It doesn't make good sense. So,
can I make a comment real quick, Jivananda?
No, I don't think so. No, go ahead. I'm just.
Okay.
You show yourself.
Yeah, you got to show your face.
Oh, hold on.
No face, no facey, no talking. Hey.
Okay, here I am. Just a real quick observation on what you're talking about. My observation is a lot of people I've met who are interested in the past life stuff is, at least in my experience, a lot of them are not so interested. It's not that they're coming at it from like an ego, like, oh, like I was a king or I was whatever, this and that and the other, self-aggrandizement, but it's more like they're in a situation like in their current circumstances that's very bewildering to them or confusing. And so they think that by delving into whatever past life regression hypnosis, that they can somehow come up with answers to help them figure out what's going on in their current life, and how to I guess deal with that and kind of make a breakthrough.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to share that real quick.
That's reasonable. That's reasonable. Now, to someone like that, who's looking for answers on how to deal with their current not so good situation, that shows that there's some sincerity there in improving your situation. You see, there's some sincerity. In other words, I'm all ears. If you're looking to a previous life for answers to how to better your situation, then I think that when we give you the answers of Krishna consciousness, the Krishna conscious philosophy, that you should be able to accept that and run with it, because we can give you the answers to why you're suffering as you are. Excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good sign. If it's not just an ego thing, if it's like, well, I really would like to find out what in previous lives led me to this position that I'm in right now. That means you're seeking for something better. If you're seeking for something better, we have it for you. You see, not only can we help you with your current situation, but we can help you design a life and a body and a consciousness for your next life. So if you believe in a previous life, surely you would believe in a next life. If you believe in a next life, then listen to us, and we can help you design that next life and that next situation now. You can have that ready for you. Does that make any sense?
Sir, I have a question.
Fire it at me.
So these texts from the Bhagavad Gita, they have to do with the gross body and attaining a certain type of ear, an eye, a tongue, a nose, and a sense of touch. And my question to you is, what kind of descriptions have been given for the types of ear, eye, tongue, nose, sense of touch that one gets in the spiritual world?
You get transcendental senses. These senses are unlimited senses. Like right now, we have very limited senses. For instance, a dog can smell, their sense of smell is up to 90 to 100 times more potent than that of a human being. But that's kind of hard for us to understand. But they do. Like a bloodhound can smell, you can give him a little whiff of something and he can go and find somebody. So the dogs can hear better. Cats can hear better. Cats and dogs, it's easier for them to see in the dark. You see, they can hear things a long way away. An eagle can read a headline of a newspaper a mile away. You see, so they have better senses than we do. So it shouldn't be difficult for us to understand that there are senses many times much more magnified than what we're experiencing now. If on our planet, in our world, the dogs, what to speak of other animals, have much better senses than we do, then what about the senses of the liberated souls who are not governed by material bodies? You see? So in the transcendental world, or the spiritual world, we have spiritual senses. So these are on an unlimited platform. We get to experience, this world is just a perverted reflection of the real spiritual world anyway. We have senses in the spiritual world, and we have perverted senses in this material world. And it's difficult for us to understand, but if we meditate on it, we're enjoying or suffering under very, very limited senses to begin with, you see, in this material world. So it should be very easy for us to understand that in the liberated conception or the liberated position, that we're not held prisoner by the limitations of our material senses. You see, there is no such thing as this limitation. You see? So all the entities in the spiritual world have unlimited senses to enjoy with Krishna. Krishna has supreme unlimited senses. We are part and parcel of him, so we also have these senses. It's just that we're not unlimited like he is. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. That answers my question very well. Thank you, sir.
I got a quick question.
Fire it at me.
Forgive me if I'm on I'm asking too many questions or anything.
No, you're not. No.
So back to I was just gonna go back and touch on the Guru Sadhu Shastra.
Yeah.
And so I understand, and I think I can experience that for myself, that it's natural to feel like you're not pleasing enough to Guru and Krishna. So just on the other side of things, how do we know if we're going against Guru and Krishna? Or if we're not pleasing them or displeasing them, would be a better word for that.
How do we know if we're pleasing or displeasing?
Well, I said I was saying it's natural to feel like we're not pleasing enough, but how do we know if we're displeasing, or would there be some guideline to say that this is displeasing to Krishna, aside from, obviously, karmic and fruitive activities are not pleasing to Guru and Krishna, but aside from that, what would be displeasing to Guru and Krishna?
That would be according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. In other words, through our hearing process, we start to, it's just like if you're married, if you pay attention to your wife in time, hopefully as quickly as possible, you'll learn what pleases and displeases her. I see Govinda Madhava shaking his head like, no, you never do learn. But is your wife watching you do this? Oh, this is so much fun.
It reminds me of my son. He has a girlfriend right now. He's like, oh, why are girls so confusing? I don't get them. Why are you guys so confusing? And I'm like, what? It's so funny.
Hey, look, that's natural. I mean, Krishna doesn't understand Radharani, okay? So if Krishna doesn't understand Radharani, then Govinda Madhava cannot understand Radhasundari. Although she wants him to. She wants him to understand her. And she thinks that if he paid more attention, that he would understand. Isn't that right, Radhasundari? I mean, I don't think he pays enough attention to you. If he did, he would have some better understanding. But here we are.
Tell him, Gurudev, tell him.
Yeah, so as we develop personal relationship, you see, we learn, what may be pleasing or what may be not pleasing to the person we're having our relationship with. Hearing, chanting, remembering, this comes, it's just like I can remember so many things that Prabhupada has said. Distribute my books, go open temples, preach. There's so many things Prabhupada has said. So I know at least when I'm doing one of those things that Prabhupada has said that I should do, that he is happy. If the Guru tells you personally, you preach and you do that, then you know he's happy. Now, you may never feel like you're preaching good enough, and you're always trying to be better, and you're begging, for empowerment to do better, but at least you're in the zone. You're doing it's by personal. It's a personal relationship. Developing our personal relationships. We get to know it's part of being personal. Now, having thought about that, what would it be like to be in impersonal relationship? In other words, in the impersonal Brahmjyoti, impersonal liberation. If we're not personal, if we're impersonal, then I don't know what you want, nor do I care. Doesn't even matter if you're there. You see? If you don't have a personality, you're just a lump. I mean, can you imagine someone who has absolutely no personality whatsoever? They're not very interesting, are they? So in the impersonal liberation, you're not even aware that there's any other living entities there. Does that answer your question?
That was a wonderful answer. Thank you, Gurudev.
Thank you. Gangamantri Prabhu, did you have a comment, question?
Hold on a sec here. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Okay, here we go. Am I on?
You got it. Take it away, Ganga.
I was thinking about Jesse's question or comment about the people who were curious about their past lives to better understand their circumstances in this life. And I thought of Prabhupada's answer. It's a little different, but when people were asking, how did I fall into the material world? Like, how did I get into this predicament? And Prabhupada was describing that if you fall into a well, and you're trying to understand, how did I fall into this well? Well, you can't understand while you're in the well. You have to get out of the well, and then you can see, oh, maybe I tripped on some stick or something. And so Prabhupada was emphasizing, don't maybe preoccupy yourself with your previous life, but understand that once you get out of the illusory material consciousness you're in, you'll understand all this stuff. Like the main thing you were emphasizing, the future life. So that's along the same lines. I was just sort of supplementing what you said with what Prabhupada explained about not being preoccupied with understanding either how we got here or our previous life.
Yeah, and another thing, once we get back home, back to Godhead, once we get delivered to our original constitutional position, things are going to be really great. Things are going to be really wonderful. I really don't see how you can start looking back, like, what was my previous life like before I came here and I'm now with Krishna? You see? What would the curiosity be like? But do the liberated souls like to sit around and say, hey, remember how we used to suffer back in the good old days? Remember heartbreak, hunger? Remember when the pandemic swept through? Wasn't it interesting times? I don't think so. Well, remember what it was like to die? Remember what it was like to have disease? No, come on. Life is going to be so wonderful that you're really not going to have any inclination to go stirring around into the past. So that is in some way also true for the devotee of Krishna. The devotee of Krishna, once you get on this path back to Godhead, and you're somewhat situated and you're on your way, you don't really care what your past life was. See? As a matter of fact, you don't even care much about what your life was before you became a devotee. I mean, maybe you had a really rotten life, you know, a lot of suffering and a lot of whatever, but you may look at your life as it is now, on your way back to Godhead, and you think, whatever it was, whatever happened to me in the past, got me to this point, this now moment. And it's also got me on this progression back home. Whatever that was glorious. And I wouldn't change one bit of it. Does that make any sense? Because it got me here. It got me to the position that I found Guru, I'm associating with sadhus, and I have Shastra to help me out of my predicament. So whatever that process was, whatever suffering I went through, whatever, that was wonderful. And if I had it to do over, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change, because we're here. And here for the devotee is always great. It's always great. Could it be better? Yeah, it would be better. It would be better for book distribution and for preaching and for prasadam distribution if we weren't in the midst of a pandemic. But it's still good, even though we can't go out of the house, we can't do so many things. There's still a real golden lining to this. See? We're reading more, we're hearing more, and we're preaching more. You see, so there's an advantage to being where we are. Good comment there, Ganga Mantri Prabhu.
Yeah, I also wanted to say I completely concur with what you said as far as it's good if someone's open-minded and they're thinking about these things, and if it brings them into a state of consciousness where they're more, receptive or eager to hear about transcendental knowledge, that once coming to transcendental knowledge, Krishna explains, like why we've come here, because we've, in the end of the 7th chapter, when Krishna says, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by the dualities arisen from desire and hate. So the original fall or whatever, it is, our envy of Krishna and so on. And, all these different bodies are just different costumes trying to exploit the material energy. So, having transcendental knowledge it clarifies everything. We don't really necessarily need to know what we were in our past life. We just know that there's a diseased state of consciousness, and once we get out of it, as you were saying, future life is more important. But I hope I didn't sound disparaging that, that such a person who was interested in, their previous life to try to better their present life. That, like you said, it shows some sincerity.
Yeah.
But once coming to, transcendental knowledge, you realize, well, it's really not that important to understand specifically what I was in my previous life, and so on. So
yeah, I didn't think you sounded disparaging, but that's you summed it up right there in that final statement. We get to that person who's sincere, and they're actually wondering, can knowledge of my previous life help me through the dilemma that I find myself in right now? If they're sincere like that, then as we give them Krishna consciousness, they will appreciate it. And as they advance in Krishna consciousness, they're going to lose any curiosity of what they were before. What does it matter? unless you still don't have answers. If you have the answers, like, all right, here's the answer. I'm in a position of suffering. Why? Because I believe that I am this body, and I don't know who God is, and I don't know what happens after death. So yeah, I'm in a real calamity. It's called ignorance. I don't know. So perhaps if I scrape and dig and look around in a previous life, maybe I'll get some answers. Well, but I didn't have those answers then. I didn't know what happens after death. I didn't know is there a God. None of that. I still had those problems. And so if in this life I can solve those problems, then I'm not going to look from anything from my life of ignorance that I had prior to this life of ignorance. I was even more ignorant then. That's for sure. I was more ignorant, whatever it was, I was more ignorant then. So, but I know what I was in my previous life. I was a dog in Mayapur.
It's sort of like,
you know that story,
don't
you? Huh? You know the story, Govinda Madhava? I'll tell you sometime. I'll tell you the story, but I have to have your presence.
You know, Govinda.
I know the story.
Yeah, someday we'll
want to hear it.
Huh?
I want to hear it sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I'll tell you that story. It's a fun story.
It's even better when we're in person.
You have to be
involved.
in person.
Yeah.
If you're not in person, it doesn't work.
Right.
So you guys remind sometime when we're together, we have personal association. We can run through that story. It's fun story. So,
So I remind you of something. When you were talking about earlier about the mind, and sorry, the kids, and it's just crazy because everything is happening, and everyone has their own theories. Like it's war is gonna come and get your chemical mask, and like I have friends that are close to me that I'm just like, wow, thank you for sharing this. Sounds very scary, like I guess I have to keep now chanting more Hare Krishna. Like I guess that's the only way I can like defend myself, or I don't know, like or people say this is what's gonna happen, and or people stop and not hire my services, and then your mind starts wondering about panic as well and stressing. And I was getting to this point where I was stressing and thinking all these things because of everything that people are saying, that
right.
it gets to you a point when I was like, nope, I'm not gonna let it affect me. But then it gets to you to a certain point where I was like, whoa, I need to like pause. And
well, there's before you go on, let me just, before I forget, there's one thing you could say to them, like when someone starts telling you that, this is going to be this, it's going to be that, there's going to be war and destruction. You can say, oh, where did you get your crystal ball? Did you get it on Amazon? Because I want to get one too. So what I like to do to people when they start giving me things like this is I just say, how do you know? Well, based on the way things, you go, oh, wait a minute. You're speculating, aren't you? Gee whiz, it's so much fun to listen to people speculate when I have the time for it, but I just don't right now. But you know what? When I get time, I'm going to call you up and let you speculate, You can speculate right there in that ear, but whiz, no time now. But I want you to know I respect your speculations, just not now.
right.
You can be kind of a smart aleck with people, and sometimes you'll get a laugh out of them, and sometimes the only thing you can expect to achieve is they don't speculate to you anymore. And a lot of people, for whatever reason, they want to put you into kind of a downer mood. You know, I'm in a downer mood. I want you to be in a downer mood. It's kind of hard to see somebody like that as a friend. Do friends do that to one another? You know, you will. I'm feeling bad. I want you to feel bad too. You know, I've lost hope. I want you to lose hope. What the heck kind of mentality is this? It's called material mentality. It's illusory. I'm in illusion. I want you to be an illusion because it's lonely here in illusion all by myself. So I need to get other people. You know, I need to influence other people in a negative way because I have been influenced in a negative way. You know, that's very unfortunate thinking, but it happens. It happens to people. They get like that. So don't let them. Don't let them. Don't let them rip off your good mood or your good outlook. The future is bright. We're in the golden age of Lord Chaitanya. This is a wonderful time to be alive. You see?
Yeah, and so when I was like trying to calm down my mind, I was just like, wow, you know what? I am not as spiritual I want to be or as dedicated I would like to be, but you know, I always try to at least offer my food, do something that I could think of Krishna, you know, and I'm like, I'm very fortunate. Like I could have it worse. Like I could have it really worse.
Yeah.
Have my house or not able to clean my yard or pay the bills or somehow get money out of somewhere because people want masks and I have that talent to make masks. And so I was just like, wow, okay, I got more money than I thought this week I was gonna get. So I'm just like, I'm very lucky. Like, so I was like, thank you, Krishna, for your mercy, even though I don't feel like I should get it just because I'm not as dedicated, but I'm just like, wow, like, so it like changed the perspective, like completely.
And that's perfect thinking. Perfect thinking. Things are good. Oh. If you can't get into that kind of thinking, how do you think you're going to be thinking when you get old? You know, disease is going to be worse as old age sets on. So if you don't have the ability to think positively now, you're going to really wish you had it when you get old. You see, I'm telling you. So don't waste your youth by thinking I have the luxury of thinking negative thoughts and complaining to how bad I have it. You're going to have time for that later on. So right now, think a little bit more positively, be a little bit more grateful. It should be easier to be grateful when you're young. You know, grateful for the assembled devotees, grateful for the holy name, grateful for Shastra. You know, there's so much to be grateful for. We are so immeasurably fortunate. And that's not going to change. You will not lose any of this good fortune. Krishna says you don't lose this. Whatever you've gained on your spiritual path, you don't lose it. You can waste time. Sometimes people stop their spiritual pursuit and they just kind of drift and they waste time when you could be continuing to advance, but you don't lose what you've gained. So let's be grateful and appreciative of what we have. And part of that is each other. So what do you think, Govinda Madhav? Have we bent everybody's ear long enough?
I think this has been great. It's 8:45. I think we began like around 5:45, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be about 2 hours in.
Yeah.
If anyone has any final reflections, any final comments, any final questions, so we can go ahead and wrap it up.
Anybody out there?
Thank you very much.
I also
Thank
want
you.
to say thank you so much as well. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev.
Aye.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, you guys.
Haribo, Haribo, Haribo.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys coming out. Thank you guys once again. This has been Virtual Closeness, Krishna Cove Experience. It's been a blast having all you guys on here. Chris Casijas, Jesse Prabhu, Jagdish, Ganga Mantri, Das. Always good to have you on here. Mahesh's iPhone. Jagdish, again, twice. I don't know how you do that. You must have some potencies that we don't know of. Carmen, thank you for
It's a
coming
city.
out. Yeah, it's a city, definitely. Thank you guys again. We really appreciate you guys.
That
We'll
is
be
my
back.
brother, Prabhu. Mahesh is my brother.
Mahesh, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for coming up. We really appreciate you guys supporting our YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. We're going to try to upload these and keep doing these every week. As long as we're locked down, we're going to have some Hare Gita. And yeah, till next time. Hare Krishna.
For arranging everything also, man.
You got it, man. Appreciate you, buddy.